moving you too far. Any song at every bar, here to cover your needs. Twin Rivers Music Scene.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Twin Rivers Music Scene podcast with your host Madison
and Reed.
And welcome to episode 4.
Yeah, if you're watching, we're in a little bit new of a location right now. These past couple of weeks have been different. For Madison and I, we've just been doing all the holiday stuff. And so we relocated our intro to Madison's house right now.
Yes, it's a little bit more comfortable. My dog gets to come, so
he's been good. He's just been hanging out over there listening to us and all of our takes.
But so it's just easier for us rather than doing everything at Riley's. So for those who are watching, that's where we are at today.
Yes. And then we took a week off around Christmas and New Year's just because Madison and I are both out of town a lot with family. And then also we've been going to a bunch of shows. A couple weeks ago, we went and took pictures at Hayden Baker's show at Buck's Backyard in Buda, which is just about like 30 or 40 minutes north of here. So we shared those pictures on our Instagram if you haven't seen them yet, and Facebook, so go check them out. Hayden Baker does play around here a good amount. They're not based out of New Braunfels, but they do play the area a good bit. So next time they're out, definitely go see them.
Yes.
We went and saw Midnight River Choir at Billy's for New Year's Eve, which we had a great time. We did the whole buy a table thing. All of our friends went. And that was my first time seeing them live. And so I feel like New Year's Eve was the perfect setting to go see them for the first time.
It was a great time to bring in the New Year, especially like Midnight River Choir, Midnight Strikes. It's New Year's Day. Like, what are the odds?
We did not even put that together before.
I know, it just came to me. But also, if you saw us at Billy's, no, you didn't. Okay? Just
moving on from that.
Yeah. Okay, and next.
And then the next day, obviously, I had to do the hair of the dog at the villa.
Of course.
There was a whole lineup of acoustic artists throughout the whole day, but we went and saw Bo Brumble, Trevor Underwood, Clayton Chapin, some people, but that's like the time frame we were there.
Yeah, so that was at the villa, and then we also went by Green Hall for the hair of the dog, which was really fun too. So we kind of bebopped around on New Year's Day.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And then we went and caught Ryan Hunter at Lone Star Lounge a couple weeks ago, his acoustic set there. And if y'all haven't seen the episode that we did with him, he was our first artist interview, and so you can go back and check that out. And then we went and saw Mason Lively at Green Hall. First time seeing him full band for me.
He's great. I was going to say I'm obsessed with him, but he's just so good. Every time I see him, he's so fun. He played an acoustic cover, the David Allan Coe song, and it was so fun.
You never even call me by my name.
Yes, everybody was singing, everybody was vibing, and it was a free show at Green Hall, which never happens.
Yeah.
So it was just good vibes all around.
Then we went and saw Jessie Lee at Riley's. They had a 3-piece show that night. I've seen her multiple times acoustic and full band, and she is someone that I always enjoy seeing because she's very different than a lot of female artists in town, and that she's very more lean soulful and like bluesy, which I feel like is something that we can really have more of in New Braunfels.
I agree. I saw her the first time at Freddie C's, and I was really taken back by her in a good way. She definitely has a very unique voice than I feel like what we're used to seeing with some female artists. So she's really good. If you haven't seen her, go check her out.
Yeah. And then last weekend, we also saw Andrew Kreitz at the Grapevine. That was a good Sunday Fun Day show.
That was, honestly, he is the perfect person to play on a Sunday Fun Day. He was playing all different genres. Honestly, It was so fun. He was singing in Spanish and just having so much fun. We saw him at the Grapevine. Got to see him for a little bit, and he just puts on a great show.
And he's really good. He shows his personality a lot when he like engages with the crowd, because he'll like talk with people in the crowd or like even stop in the middle of his songs and like get people into it. And
he gave you a shout out.
Yeah, he did when we walked up, because I saw him the night before at Riley's when I was working. But yeah, he's always like a very unique personality to see, and it like makes his music even better because it's the combination of a very much like it's a whole show in itself, whether it's acoustic or whatever.
So very busy.
Yeah, and we'll keep updating our socials with videos and pictures from those because we have a lot. We're just kind of like going to start putting them out again since we took a little bit of a break.
Exactly. We'll start being more consistent with coming out to shows and posting, along with our podcast coming out every other week.
Yeah.
And then along with shows, if y'all are looking for any this weekend, tonight at Green Hall, the Reed Brothers play. And also at the Green Grove, Ryan Snipes is playing. And then tomorrow, Saturday the 11th, at Poorhouse, we have Ryan Ross Band and also Madison Rogers and David Beck on Saturday. David Beck plays at night at the Green Grove. So check them out if you're looking for any weekend plans.
And then also this week, Clayton Chapin released his new single, Low on You, on January 3rd. So that can be streamed everywhere. And then they're actually doing a single release show at Cowboys and Cadillacs whenever they get opened up. So keep an eye on that because they'll be celebrating their new single that way.
Yes, that should be exciting. And we will also be there. So just keep up to date on Clayton Chapin's socials.
Yes, ma'am. So that's everything that we had to catch y'all up with just over the holidays and everything. And like Madison had said, we'll be still releasing our podcast every other week. We just took a week off this time. So,
and now we'd love to introduce to y'all our next artist, Shelby Rae Marshall. From church choir to the big stage, the singer-songwriter from New Braunfels, Texas, using her passion for dual-set tones and six-string skills to craft heartfelt stories that captivate every audience. A mix of twang, Southern gospel, and Texas country, she is definitely a little honkier than the rest. We would like to introduce Shelby Rae Marshall to the Twin Rivers podcast.
Hi, y'all.
Welcome. We're excited to have you.
Oh my gosh, thank y'all for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, and you are our first female artist.
Woohoo.
And third episode, and coming out in the new year of 2025. So
that's so exciting. I feel like that's one thing I can say, like, that's kind of cool about my very, very short-lived, like, not short-lived, but short career of just, like, I was probably the first, like, female artist to actually be or actually one of two female artists that was considered for the like Green Songwriters competition. So like that was pretty cool. So
that's awesome. That was like, pretty recent, right?
Yes, that was very recent. That was maybe like a month or two ago. I don't know. All my months are running together now. I just got married, so
congratulations.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know what happened this year, but it was a year. It was great.
Like it was a blur, but I am married, so that's great.
We are married now.
How was your wedding?
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. It was very stressful to plan. Like I will say it's true what people say about it. It is very stressful. You cry a lot. Feels a little lonely at times, but then it all comes together and then it's like a really big blessing and it's super nice to be able to like share it with all your family. So I would recommend it, just you got to get through it.
Did you have it at a local venue or did y'all travel somewhere?
It was local. It was at the Fields out in Cibolo. So it's actually Lone Star Premier Outdoors, like where they do dove hunts and like the Songbird series. And they turned it into a little wedding venue. So it was so cute.
I actually love that place. It's a really good venue. And we went to the Dove series. Yeah, this summer. And I actually said, I was like, do people get married here? Because it's stunning.
Yes, they built like a open air chapel out there and like a reception hall, and now they have like 3 little Airbnbs that like you can stay in, and like your wedding party you get ready in, so it's real cute.
Okay, love it. So if anybody is getting married, needs a venue,
check that one out. That was like free promo right there.
Right?
Where's your sponsorship?
Where's my sponsorship?
I saw in your bio that you started at a very young age. It sounded like 7. You were just singing around to family and friends, and you were in your church choir. And I also saw that your uncle and dad kind of inspired you musically. So I want to hear more about that. What kind of brought you to be a singer-songwriter you are today?
Honestly, when I was younger, we would have like the CMT like music videos like playing all the time. Like that was my favorite thing. Shania Twain was my hero at the time. And so I would literally dress up and put on shows for like my family, my neighbors. I would make them play American Idol with me. And I would tell them like they were Paula, Randy, or Simon. And then I would come out as like different people And sometimes I would like intentionally be just like super bad, so that way I could like throw a fit when they said like I didn't make it to Hollywood. No,
So you're an actor too.
exactly. Triple threat. I'm a great dancer. I'm just kidding. I'm terrible. But it kind of started there. I loved music. I've always loved music. And then I grew up in a really small Baptist church, and so I grew up singing gospel music. I did learn to play piano. That started when I was about 9. I took lessons for maybe a year and a half, and then it just didn't stick with me. I can't read sheet music to save my life, so don't put it in front of me because I can't play it. But I ended up really loving piano, and then my dad kind of learned to play guitar at an older age, so he kind of taught me while he was learning a little bit. My great uncle, he was in a few bands back in the 70s, so he's pretty awesome. He still has the really great hair to prove it, but he's an amazing guitar player still. And he let, like, I was maybe 10 or 11, and he let me play his custom, like, Taylor, which is, like, a really nice, like, expensive guitar, like, definitely more than my life was worth at the time. But he let me play it, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I started taking lessons, but I maybe took 2 or 3. I taught myself a lot of what I know. Still not great at the least, but kind of taught myself. And then my dad and my nanny got me a Taylor guitar, like my first guitar. And so since then, I started writing songs. I started maybe writing songs when I was 12. They weren't good.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere. I was definitely like trying. I found like one of my old songbooks when I was moving out of my dad's old house, and it was all torn up and stuff. Like, it was so old, and it was like a Jonas Brothers Camp Rock notebook too. That made it even better. But
it's like you were writing songs if you were a camper at Camp Rock.
Yes,
I remember
at
watching
Camp
that.
Rock.
Yes.
I was visualizing myself as Demi Lovato at the time.
That last performance that like blew everyone away. You're like, that's me.
And like the Disney knees. But then I actually wrote a song when I was 14 called Forget Them All, and that one is out on all streaming services, and I actually got to record it when I was 15. It was kind of a birthday present from my dad. He asked me what I wanted, and I was like, I want to record a song. And he was like, I have no idea how to do that, but if you can figure it out, go ahead. So I Googled recording studios in Fort Worth, and so I found this little hole-in-the-wall studio called Fort Worth Sound. It's in Studio B, so it's like a really small studio. And that guy, his name was Tanner Landry. I think he's actually done some of Austin Meade's stuff now too, so it's kind of cool to see, like, oh, that was cool. I was a baby.
Yeah.
But he told me how to do like music distribution and like where to start with that. So that kind of kick-started my career in a way. I just didn't know it at the time. I did play in church. I sang in choir in high school. I was a choir kid. And then I kind of put it away for a while. I didn't think I could go anywhere with it, and I had no idea how to start. Like, I had friends telling me, like, oh, you should play around town. I was like, to me, that was a foreign concept of, like, there's no, like, I have no idea how to do that. I don't know anybody. It didn't start until I think maybe 2021, 22. My uncle was just like, hey, play at the local bar out in Dublin, Texas. And so I emailed them. They know my dad. Like, they know him. They were like, oh, yeah. Like, you can headline this night. I was like, oh, I can headline. That was crazy. That was easy. And
that
like,
was your first
the
gig?
easy button. That was my
You're
very first gig.
Okay.
It went great. I was so nervous. That was also another problem. I was so insecure and so nervous. Like, I would get in front of people, and then, like, I would start to shake so bad. And so, like, I couldn't get a word out, like, edgewise. Mm-hmm. So that was something I was really worried about, but it didn't happen. I was real nervous the first couple of songs, and then, like, people started loosening up, and it was actually, like, a really great night. I was like, okay, I want to do this. I think I could do this. And then coming back to New Braunfels from just such a small town, it has a small town vibe, but it's such a big town. Mm-hmm. And you do have to know people, I feel like, to kind of get your foot in the door. Then you can kind of go off of, you know, your experience and, you know, if you're good or if you're not good or whatever it is. But to start off, I definitely needed some help. I'm trying to think, my first gig in New Braunfels was, I think, at Hill Country Tap. When they opened, and they're closed now. They have their bar in 1908, but that was definitely my bosses are friends with the owners of that, and so they told them that I did music. They were doing their grand opening, and so they were like, hey, you know, we hear that you do music. You want to come play? And that was that. Then I started kind of getting gigs from, like, word of mouth at the Grove. Chris probably thinks I'm like a crazy person, but I like flagged him down while I was working at the Goat. Yeah. And I was like, hey, I really want to play here. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah. And so he was like, send me your stuff. Because I had been emailing and nothing, just crickets. So that was
neighbors right there. You literally like back up to the Grove. So you're like, hello.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I was setting out stuff one morning and I saw him, and like one of the bartenders I had talked to told me like he's kind of a little bald guy.
You're like, you're the one.
I'm like, and I was like, excuse me.
I've been emailing.
And so he's like, he comes over to like the fence line. We're talking over it. And I was like, are you Chris? Like, I'm Shelby. He was like, I was like, I really want to play here. Like, I've been trying to contact somebody. And like, I heard someone told me to talk to you. And they were like, absolutely. And they were so sweet. And a lot of them actually came to my wedding. Like, Chris was there. Oh, cool. And some of the bartenders. So like I've definitely formed really good relationships with a lot of them. So it's been really good. It's really cool to look back on and be like, wow, I was that crazy lady. And then now, like, you know, I'm playing there like at least once a month or every other month. So it's been really cool.
Yeah. I've seen you a bunch at Green Grove, and so I was going to ask about that. But you had mentioned about networking and everything in the scene being such a big part of it. With Green and New Braunfels specifically, how has that looked, like networking with other musicians as well as venue bookers and everything?
I feel like it's absolutely a necessary part to have any success like in the local scene. I love that. I feel like that's such a good thing to have, because I've played in Fort Worth, and I feel like up there's a little bit more competition, and it's a little bit more like cutthroat. And I feel like here it's not really, there's very little competition, and it's a lot of more support, which is definitely what you want to see, especially like among like female artists, like Hannah Swan. Like we did open mic nights, or not open mic nights, Monday nights, which was Women of Americana, Green Groves on Monday nights, and Green Groves, wow. Green Grove Monday night. So we did that for a lot my first year, just trying to like get involved and like meet other artists. And honestly, the networking that led me to my husband, because my husband was hanging out with Cade Isaacson, which is also another amazing musician. He's such a sweet guy. He was in my wedding. So cool. It's just like you meet like the best friends for life. It's like a sorority, but musicians.
That's a cool point, because that's exactly what Ryan Hunter had said in the last podcast that we put out. He's like, there is such like a camaraderie with it and support system that is different than other cities that have heavy music going through it.
So you mentioned in 2015 you recorded your first single. How has recording then, when you were a lot younger than now, how have you grown as a musician with, performing and also in the studio?
I feel like I've grown in my confidence. I feel like that has helped a lot. At the time, I was very confident, but I was also super insecure at the same time. It was definitely 50-50 for me. I felt like he had to coach me a lot through it, and like it took a lot longer. I feel like when I went back into the studio, I think 2023, I worked with Pat Mansky and Corby Schaub on my first EP, and that was like a legitimate experience. That was like, this is a real studio. This is like where real artists have recorded, like Riley Ray Hubbard. and like some other amazing musicians, and it's just like you're doing it. Like you're actually like in a real studio. And at the same time, that was super nerve-wracking because I felt very undeserving, and I still do. But at the same time, I'm really thankful for like having that professional input and like having those kind of people to coach me and tell me, hey, this would make it a lot better. Like this is good where you started. You have to start somewhere. And then I love being able to learn more about that. And I feel like going into the studio this year, from that experience, I took a lot of what I learned, and then I'm continuing to learn new things. And I also think who you work with, everybody has a different style, and so you're always I personally don't want to work with the same person like over and over again, but I might come back to it. But I love to see like different styles and like how they work with you, how they coach you through certain parts of a song. Like if it's a little bit crazy or harder than what you would normally do, I like to be pushed to do better. I want to be better. I've even considered like late in my career now, like doing vocal lessons and stuff like that, because I know I'm not the best guitar player by any means. I'm not the best vocalist by any means, but I definitely want to learn. I want to get better, and I want to improve and constantly grow and see that growth.
And I'm sure you've seen that growth also, like in your songwriting, like you've mentioned, because you made it to the finalists for a couple different songwriting competitions in the past couple years. Can you tell us more about your experience at the LJT Songwriter Contest last year?
That was so much fun. That was like a surreal experience. I had met Race Ricketts and Presley Hale. They're really good friends. They're amazing songwriters and musicians. They sound amazing together. So that was really cool to just get to meet them and like hear them in person. The Larry Joe Taylor Songwriters Competition, I entered it without thinking that I would get in. Like I just kind of was like, well, submit.
What all do you have to submit? Is it like a video?
I
or
think
like
it was
a
like
song?
2 or 3 videos of just an acoustic original song.
Okay.
And it had to be acoustic. It couldn't be like a recorded version or whatever. You wanted it to be as raw as possible. And I remember getting the email back of like, congratulations, you've made it in, like out of 250 submissions. And I was like, oh, what? That was pretty crazy for me because that was a big confidence boost just for songwriting because I was very, very insecure. Just like I would easily compare myself to other people and just like, I'm not there. I can't write like that, or I can't write this way, or, I haven't been able to write that. And so that was pretty cool to like be there and then also get to be surrounded by so many other really talented artists. Like it's a very humbling experience too of like, oh wow, like you're here with the big dogs. But that first night, the round 1, I just thought it was cool to be there at that point. So making it to like I think it was the top 20. I think there was only 20 people picked. I thought that was just really cool in itself. And then making it into the semifinal round, like yeah, I was like crying that night. That was crazy. That was definitely a surreal experience. And then like Larry Joe Taylor and his wife, like both coming up to me, like telling me that, they really, really liked my song. Like, Larry Joe Taylor's wife was crying. Like just,
wow.
I got tears out of the crowd. That makes a songwriter's heart so happy and like melt.
Seeing how you move people in the audience.
Exactly.
What song did you sing?
Erath County Sunset, I think, was the one that really got to people. That was the one I wrote about my pawpaw. He passed away, I think it's been like 3 years now, almost 4. And so that was a very sentimental song for me, and apparently for a lot of other people too, which is definitely really cool to see because I love getting that kind of reaction. Like obviously I want people to have fun. I don't want people to bawling their eyes out, but at the same time, it is really cool to see like my emotions poured out into a song and then other people having that same reaction in their own lives.
connecting with the audience, I think, is very important. I think you do that very well.
Oh, thank you.
So what's your songwriting process? I'm always so intrigued by everybody because I obviously cannot write a song. My sister's really good at it, but I didn't get that. So what's that like? Because you've been in a lot of songwriting competitions.
I love writing. I always loved English. I loved my English teacher, Miss Pryor. I was always just really, I loved writing. I wouldn't say I was always the greatest writer, but I loved writing. And that was a way for me to like escape. That was a way for me to express my emotions. And I don't know, my process is different every time. Sometimes it's like, okay, I want to write a song, and so I'll sit down, schedule a time, and like I'll come up with an idea of what I want to write about, whether it's, you know, a person, a place, or thing. Or I'm driving home one day and I start just humming randomly. Ask my husband, I do this all the time. He's like, what are you doing? Or what are you singing? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just singing, you know, enjoy it. You're getting a free concert.
Like, you're welcome.
Exactly. You are so welcome. But I don't know. It's different every time. I feel like a lot of the songs that I have out or that I put on my EP back in September, several of those songs like just kind of came out of like a one-liner of, you know, I liked, for Erath County specifically, I wrote, I'll remember before the stars forget. And I was like, I like that. I was like, that's just fun. That's a cool line. And I remember sitting on the dock with my cousin kind of after my pawpaw's funeral, and like the sunset, it was just so pretty. I remember my mom saying like it just looks like fire, you know. And so I put like a lot of those like things like that were going through my head together, and then I tried to just make it flow. And that was really the process. But I know like with October New, that was like a weird song. When I was like maybe before I was married, before I met my husband, if I would get like into like talking like relationships, or like I'd meet someone and then like by October it'd be over, like it'd just be like nah. And most of it was my fault. Most of it I was just like, no, I don't like you.
No, that's funny because I saw this trend on TikTok these past couple months where people were like, why does everyone break up in the beginning of fall? And so maybe that's part of
crazy.
That phenomenon.
No, the leaves change, your mind changes, your mood changes, everything changes.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the point of that song, was that like everything's changing. And then I ended up writing it in like open E tuning, and like that was a new thing I'd never done before. I played it for my producer, and he was like, you have to record that. And I only had maybe the first verse and the chorus written. I sent it to him because he was like, whatever you have, whatever you write, send it to me. I probably sent him like 12, 14 songs. And he tried to talk me into doing an album, and I was like, I'm in college and I can't afford that. But it was definitely super cool to hear him say that. But to answer your question, the process is definitely different every time, but most of the time it either starts with a melody or it starts with a line.
Cool. And you had mentioned Tarleton. When did you graduate from there?
July of this year, of 2024.
And what was your major?
Psychology.
Do you think that that's helped you with songwriting at all?
Absolutely. I think that has helped with connecting to people, because that's what psychology is all about. It's about learning about your personality, how people think. It also is really bad in a sense, because then I'm like overanalyzing everything. I'm like, oh my God, that lady looked at me wrong in the back, and so she thinks I suck, and so everybody else thinks I suck.
Yeah.
Like that is definitely where my mind goes on stage, and so I have to like just kind of block that out. I definitely have to like say a little prayer before and just kind of soothe my anxiety about that.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it has helped a lot. And actually, I just got accepted into Texas State for graduate college.
Awesome.
So I'll be doing it 100% online.
How has New Braunfels paved the way in your career musically, do you think, compared to Fort Worth? Was there any like monumental person that you kind of met? I know you mentioned when you recorded the very first time.
So my new songs that I'm working on, I did get to meet Zach Walter, Matthew Briggs, and they worked with Hannah Swan. And so it was kind of through her that I got in touch with them. So that was cool. Corby, I met at a songwriter circle after playing with this girl. Her name was Misty Ann, I think. And she was super sweet. And she took me to that songwriter circle. I met several amazing songwriters. Some of them were a lot of Nashville writers that have written for like Kenny Chesney and stuff like that. So it's cool to see the actual songwriters behind the artist, I guess. And this guy came up to me. He was like, this guy, like, you need to talk to this guy. I mean, he did Parker's first album. And I was like, excuse me? You know, I was kind of fangirling a little bit. And so I was like, you got his number? And he was like, you're a smart girl. And so he was like, he doesn't really he doesn't really talk to a lot of people anymore. Like, he has a family now. Like, he's not doing music full time. But he was like, I'll talk to him. I'll let him know you're going to contact him. And so that's kind of how that happened. I contacted him. We talked on the phone, me and him and my mom, like for about an hour in our backyard. And he was like, I'm really excited to work with you. And that was kind of how that happened. So I feel like New Braunfels has had a huge impact in my career, especially networking wise. I feel like it's a lot easier to network in New Braunfels. I feel like Fort Worth is a little bit more, it has turned into more of a Broadway vibe. If you've ever been to like Nashville, it's definitely a lot of cover songs. I feel like the songwriter scene is not as big, especially Stockyards. But I think like towns outside of Fort Worth, you know, like Millsap. I lived in Millsap for a long time. Like when I went to Millsap Elementary School. That was kind of where my mom and dad lived for the first part of my life. And Weatherford, Stephenville, Dublin. I feel like once you go to those smaller towns, you kind of hit more of a songwriter scene, and even Lubbock. But definitely Fort Worth is a lot different. Still amazing artists, still really cool. Definitely should play there. That's definitely a must. But at the same time, New Braunfels definitely is easier to connect with people, I feel like.
Do you have any upcoming shows in New Braunfels?
I am booking for the month of January.
Okay.
And I'm trying to book for the last part of May. But I do have shows coming up all through January. My website, shelbyraymarshall.com. I keep that updated all the time. That's literally basically my calendar. So definitely for shows, check that out. New music will be coming out January, February, and a little later, closer to summer as well. I have 3 new songs. So,
can you talk more about those 3 songs? Give us a little insight on those.
Absolutely. I'm super excited. Fort Worth is one of the songs, actually. And I wrote it about my dad. So my dad was diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was probably around 11. And so I feel like there was kind of a shift in my life at that time. So that was kind of, I think, why I started writing. And I kind of wrote it about being stuck in a time in your life where you wish that was the way it was. Like, and you're 10 years down the road, you know, you've grown up and you look back on your life, but you're still like, you still see that person in that time and not the way they are now. And so it's kind of a really emotional song for me to write. But that one will be coming out. That was considered to go on my EP, and it didn't go on my EP. But I really wanted to record it. I had my husband telling me to record it. I had a couple of friends telling me, so we recorded that one. And then I wrote Wine Over Whitley, which is another one. It's definitely more like a 80s, 90s country vibe. I got the fiddle player from the Ace and the Hole band to play on it, so that was cool.
That's huge.
And, Zach Walters, like, doing all the harmonies on it and everything. It's a really cool song. That one was weird when I wrote it, but I was just like, I remember playing at Green Grove, and I was trying to get a water or something. I don't really drink a lot. And so Keith Whitley was playing, and I was thinking, like, what if I wrote a song about, just I'd rather be, like, at home with you, like, drinking wine, making up, like, being cool, being good, like, being in love, instead of, like, being here, like, crying, listening to Keith Whitley. And so that was kind of the vibe for that song. I feel like it turned out really well. Really excited to put that one out. And then the third song is called Times Sure Have Changed. And I wrote that one because I hear that a lot just throughout my life. Like, times have changed. Mm-hmm. And they have, absolutely. New Braunfels has grown. Stephenville's grown. Like, everything's different. My cousin just got married. I got married. We used to be, like, super close. And we're still really close, but it's just no one talks about how different it is. Like, and you kind of look back and you're like, oh, I wish I was that young again. Or I wish, like, I could go back to being that little teenager and, like, giggling in the corner over nothing. And, out of all the, life changes that happen, like, I needed to remind myself, like, no matter what changes, like, God is the same God. He is the same God in the highs of your life as he is in the lows of your life. And, like, he sent his son to die for you. And that was something that it really touched my heart. And I really wanted to kind of write more of a Christian song, just because that is very important in my life. And I still love country music. God loves country music. But
amen to that.
But that was something very important to me, that I just wanted to express that, times sure have changed and Jesus still saves. And so that's another song coming out. I'm very excited about it. I think it turned out really awesome. So
that's awesome. I'm so excited. I love learning the backstory behind every song. I know some are just made up, which I love learning those too, just the thought process of it. And thanks for sharing that about your dad. I think that's really cool that you're open and your vulnerability in songs show. So thanks for sharing that. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I love being open, and I want, if someone else can relate, or if it helps them in any way, like, that's why I want to do that. That's why I want to write. That's why I want to play music. I love being able to connect with people. That's why I majored in psychology. So
it all comes together.
It all comes together in the end.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking. This has been a great conversation. It was really good getting to know you. Do you want to plug yourself so people can follow you, keep up to date with you, follow you on Spotify, all the things, Insta, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok?
All the things. Oh my gosh. Thank you all so much for having me. This was so fun. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Shelby Rae Marshall. Shelby is like the car. Rae is R-A-E. There's no Y. Marshall is with 2 L's. Those are questions I get asked so much, and so we just have to make sure people know that.
You got the clarification down.
The clarification. That's how you spell it.
Well, awesome. And then any songs or artists that you're listening to right now? That's kind of how we like to wrap up our interviews.
Honestly, Ann Wilson has been a big one. I love her Christmas music, and I honestly love her new album. And always Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift.
My girl.
I'm not ashamed.
I'm not ashamed either.
No.
So welcome. Actually, everybody is. If you're not in the club, like, what are you doing?
Exactly. Like, who do you think you are? At a show, actually, someone came up to me and told me that I looked like I listened to Taylor Swift. And I was like,
thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm going to take it as a compliment.
Yes.
Always Taylor Swift. I have to say Baker Blankenship, I think is his name. but it comes on at the store all the time. I think Maxed Out is the song. That one's a goodie. I'm into Jesse Murph at the moment. Read South Hall now, but my husband is obsessed with them, so definitely listen to that.
You just saw them a couple weeks ago.
I did.
Oh, how was it?
He was so good. He's turned more rock.
Yeah,
like hard, right?
My husband loves rock, so
I
he's
loved
like
it.
obsessed.
And honestly, they killed it. But I was like, okay, this is different.
Like,
but I was
it's
vibing
different.
with them.
So my husband described it very well. It's like a modern day Leonard Skinner.
Yes,
And we love that.
We love that. What about you, Reed? What are you listening to?
Right now, I have been listening to a lot of Christmas music, honestly, but like country Christmas. So obviously Megan Maroney.
Yes.
John Party has some good ones out, like one called
I love
Reindeer.
John
I'm pretty
Party.
sure I'll listen to year round.
Mhm.
So just trying to get in the holiday spirit with some Texas country Christmas. So
I love Megan Maroney's Christmas songs.
Yes.
And I'm actually a Scrooge. I don't like Christmas music. But
That's
I do have a
insane.
favorite Christmas song, and I think y'all will appreciate this. It's Hard Candy Christmas by Dolly Parton.
That
Yes.
one's a classic.
Love that song. But I've been actually listening to Vincent Mason recently. I really like him. If you haven't heard, go check out. I really like his song. I think Hell is a Dance Floor. It's a really good song. So
I've heard that one.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know if I've heard that one or not. I need to go look it up.
You can get in your car and listen to it on the way home.
I will listen to it on the way home.
That's your homework.
Perfect.
Well, again, thanks so much for joining the Twin Rivers Music Scene podcast with your host, Madison.
And Reed. And this is Shelby Rae Marshall.
Thank y'all.
Bye, guys.
No venue too far, any song at every bar. Here to cover your needs. Twin Rivers Music Scene.